Gary's Raticate died as he lived, as a creature enslaved to an obnoxious 10-year-old kid forced to battle against other enslaved creatures. Ash Ketchum to Ash Ketchum, Pokédust to Pokédust. Internet, welcome to Game Theory, where, let's face it, for as cool as it might seem to live in the Pokemon world, do you really want a 2.5-foot rat to jump out at you the next time you're walking through some tall grass? Seriously, where do you think you are? New York? Minus the grass? According to the Pokedex, Raticate is a 40-pound rodent. Let's see how scared of mice you really are when you find this thing raiding your kitchen in the middle of the night to chew on your ramen packets. But honestly, Generation 1's Raticate would have been a mostly forgotten normal type, gone the way of Nidoran and Sandshrew, buried under the more popular Arcanines, Rapidashes, and Mewtwo's, had it not been for one nagging and incredibly dark little detail. The theory that you killed your rival's Raticate. Oh my god, you killed Raticate! So, with Pokemon Sun and Moon taking up 50% of Nintendo's booth this year at E3, and Poke Fever once again spreading, it's time we prepare for the future of this franchise by solving one of the biggest mysteries from its past. Call your rival what you will, Gary, Blue, Asshat, but the creepypasta around his Raticate is one of the oldest and most infamous Poke theories out there. Still, for all you non-Gen 1ers, let me explain. Throughout your journey to be the very best, like no one ever was, you constantly run into your rival who forces you to battle against his ever-improving roster of Pokemon. As you progress through the game building your team, so does he, adding to his roster one by one. Just like most players, his first new recruit is a Pidgey, followed shortly by an Abra and a Rattata. And also like most trainers, he tends to stick with a core team. In the final battle against him, his starter, along with Abra and Pidgey, are all in their fully evolved forms, with a Rhydon, Gyarados, and Exeggutor picked up along the way and added for good measure. But that begs the question, what happened to his Rattata? We see Rattata in your third battle with him, and the evolved form Raticate in your fourth battle, and then nothing for the rest of the game. Big deal, I hear you saying. Maybe he switched out Raticate for something stronger. And you would be totally right in this assumption, except for 3 key facts. First, it's the only Pokemon that goes missing from his team across the whole game. Every Pokemon you see him use throughout your various battles with him makes it into the final roster, except for Raticate. But not only that, in your infamous 5th battle with him, your rival only has 5 Pokemon in his team, leaving 1 slot blank. Even if you don't like your Raticate anymore, having anyone in that empty slot would be better than having no one. So why not Raticate? It'd be like entering a fight with one hand tied behind your back. You're practically handicapping yourself. But lastly, and most importantly, is the location of that 5th battle, Pokemon Tower, a 7-floor cemetery for dead Pokemon smack in the middle of Lavender Town. Okay, well, off in the northwest corner of the town, you get the point. It's a cemetery. Your rival's empty Pokemon slot and the disappearance of Raticate, when coupled with the battle in a Pokemon cemetery, all led the internet to the only logical conclusion: you killed it. Your rival was there to bury his dead Raticate, one that you, as the player, had a hand in killing during your previous battle aboard the SS Anne. So, is it true? Are you an 11-year-old animal killer? Today I'm putting Red on trial and coming up with the definitive answer to this legendary mystery surrounding this not-so-legendary Pokemon. First things first, Pokemon death. The Pokemon Tower is supposedly filled with the remains of dead Pokemon, but how exactly does a Pokemon die in the first place? I mean, if Poke theorists are claiming that we killed Raticate, then how did we do it exactly? It seems like such an obvious and dumb question, and yet when you actually look across the games and animated series, you never really get all that clear of an answer. I mean, it is a franchise trying to appeal to younger kids and all, and I don't know many 5-year-olds who are stoked about contemplating their finite existence through the death throes of their Pika pals. Sure, we hear about Pokemon dying, but to the best of my knowledge, we only ever see 2 Pokemon truly die, both by self-sacrifice and both with questionable canonicity. First is Lucario Lucario in the movie Lucario and the Mystery of Mew, and the other is Latios to stop a tsunami in the movie Pokemon Heroes. That Latios scene, man. Oh, seems like someone is always cutting onions when that scene is on. So strange how that works. I don't even like onions. Must prove theory. In the games, we know that AZ's Floette died when called to battle during a great Pokemon war, but we don't get any more information than that. So for more clues, we turn to the Pokedex. It's there that we're able to, entry by entry, piece together more information about the subject of how Pokemon die. For instance, it's confirmed that Pokemon will eat each other. Wurmple's Generation 6 entry clearly states that it must defend itself against all the Swellow birds. Quote, Wurmple is targeted by Swellow as prey. Then there's Gorbis, whose Pokedex entry from Sapphire states that when it spots prey, it'll, quote, insert its thin mouth into the prey's body and drain the prey of its body fluids. Holy Sharpedo! That's dark. So very clearly, Pokemon will eat each other as predator and prey. Good to know that the next time I'm standing around trying to catch a wild Gyarados that could bite me in half. There are no rules in this land. But that's not all. There's also deaths like Charmander, where we learn, quote, its life would end if the flame on its tail were to go out. A threat we see multiple times throughout the course of the animated series. Finally, there's simply old age, as we learn about from Mr. Fuji and his Doduo in the manga. So the possible causes of a Pokemon death are pretty straightforward. Get eaten, get old, or get sacrificed for the salvation of the planet. You know, just like a typical pet. But then what about damage sustained from battles? The theory goes that your rival's Raticate died because you beat it so badly during your battle on the SS Anne, a ship with no access to a Pokemon Center to heal the Mon in time. And while at first this may seem silly, since in 100% of battles across all generations you cause your opponent's Pokemon to simply faint, episodes of the anime show that battling could potentially be a real threat to the life of these creatures. I mean, look no further than the episode Pika and Goliath, where Pikachu gets hyper beamed at point-blank range by Raichu, causing him to fall into a coma, at which point he needs to be defibrillated multiple times before coming back to consciousness. And also, while we're on the subject here, let's level for a second, Ash Ketchum. It seems like every time Pikachu has a real problem in battle, it's always against a Raichu. Always. Could you, for once, save one of your Pokemon till the end of the battle? You know, one that might not be the exact same type as the Pokemon you're trying to take down. You are an irresponsible trainer. Then there's Celebi in the 4th Pokemon movie, Pokemon Forever. I see what you guys did there. Oh, you. Where Celebi overexerts itself and literally dies before being revived by the spirits of the past and the future. Blah, blah, blah. Miracles happen. The day is saved. Team Rocket blasts off again. But the anime, of course, does that weird thing where Pokemon don't go back into Pokeballs, since how are you gonna sell cuddly stuffed animals of 700 plus characters if they spend all that time chilling in balls around your waist? Get out there and hug those trainers, damn it. We got merch to push. Maybe that affects things? Since in the games, Raticate and other fainted Pokemon always return to their balls. Will going directly back into their balls help improve their chances of survival? Well, it doesn't quite look like it. After years of debating what happens inside Pokeballs, it took Super Smash Bros. Melee and Brawl to set the record straight. According to their trophy information for the Pokeball item, quote, Pokeballs contain an environment specially designed for Pokemon comfort. Despite appearances, they actually contain a wide, comfortable, Pokemon-friendly world inside of them. And as we see in the games, Pokemon aren't getting healed between battles in their balls. Each time they're let out, they're just as injured as when they went in. Getting turned into data so they can be stored in the Pokeball isn't necessarily improving their chances of survival. It's just a place where they can wait out their time until the next visit to Nurse Joy. So in short, it's the perfect recipe for this theory to be correct. Pokemon can die, battles actually injure these creatures to life-threatening levels, and no amount of hiding in a Pokeball is gonna save them. So is that it? Do all signs point to yes? Did we truly kill our rival's Raticate? Absolutely not. And while we could sit here analyzing Blue's dialogue in the tower and assessing that it doesn't match with the type of things a grieving Pokemon trainer who just buried a loyal team member would say, the answer is so much simpler and definitive than that. In fact, that critical piece of evidence, much like the grandfather clock from FNAF, has been staring us in the face. In this case, for years. The incontrovertible proof as to why Blue's Raticate is alive and well is his level. For literally a decade, this theory has hinged on the belief that your rival doesn't store Pokemon on his PC, that the only reason he would lose Raticate is through some tragic means like death. But look at how his Rattata's level changes across each battle. Fight 3 on Nugget Bridge is the first time we see Rattata, and it's at level 15. The next encounter on the SSN is when he challenges you with the quote-unquote soon-to-be deceased Raticate at level 16. And by the 5th battle, Raticate is no more, supposedly dead by our blood-stained 11-year-old hands, buried in the Pokemon Tower. But here's where we've been wrong the whole time. This Rattata is not the same as this Raticate. They're two entirely separate Pokemon. How do we know? Rattata doesn't evolve into Raticate until level 20. But the Raticate we see is a level 16, meaning that it has to be a different Pokemon he caught in the wild. And why is this important? Because it establishes that your rival does indeed have more Pokemon in his team that we don't see. That he either released Rattata and Raticate or stores them in his PC like any normal trainer. Well, either those options or the extreme conclusion we killed both Rattata and Raticate. In which case, wow. Even creepier pasta. Here's the thing, if he only swaps out one Pokemon from his team for the whole game, yeah, that's pretty suspicious. It's an odd design choice. But if we know he also possessed a low-level Rattata that never appeared again, well, now his behavior is actually pretty normal. He just stores Pokemon he's not interested in training anymore. This leveling detail was actually brought to my attention by a former Poke theorist, Cool Goldfinch. So huge props to him for spotting this small and quite honestly game-changing fact. But in case you're still not convinced, guys, come on. To put one final nail in the coffin, simply analyze the Pokemon's stats. Raticate gets swapped out in Blue's team by Execute, which evolves into Executor. Now, even if you don't know Pokemon strategy at all in advanced team builds or anything like that, one thing I'm sure you understand is that in RPGs, higher numbers tend to be better. Compare stats for Raticate to Executor. Just a superficial glance shows you that the weird palm tree is better in every category than the giant rat. It's as simple as that. In short, today, Occam's Razor wins out. Now, for those of you unfamiliar, Occam's Razor is the name of a principle built around the idea that among competing hypotheses, the one with the fewest assumptions should be selected. Occam's Razor is basically the idea that the simplest answer is, more often than not, the right answer. It is, quite literally, the antithesis of this channel's motto, where I'll go to whatever lengths necessary to explain away weird gameplay mechanics or details that just feel out of place. But in this instance, the internet simply took a lot of admittedly strange details about the battle, the missing Pokemon, the empty slot, the death-filled setting, and extrapolated a bit too far. But this time, unlike other creepypastas where evidence one way or the other simply doesn't exist, this time the truth can't be denied. The levels don't lie. The simplest explanation is indeed the correct one. Sorry, creepypasta writers, but it's time we tell this urban legend. Smell you later. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for watching. But if you're a fan of the Raticate creepypasta and are in the mood for more, try this one on for size. It was December 1975 and the Lutz family had just moved into their new home on Long Island. But this wasn't just any home. 1 year earlier, Ronald DeFeo had murdered his parents, brothers, and sisters in that house, room by room, bed by bed. The angry, murdered souls lived on in the walls and rafters of the house. And when the Lutz family moved in, the house wasn't happy about it, determined to get them out one way or another. This is the shocking true story of the Amityville Horror, available as an audiobook right now on Audible.com, where they have over 250,000 downloadable titles to choose from, including other horror classics like Hell House, The Exorcist, and The Bell Witch. So if you're ready to get scared, start your free 30-day trial by going to audible.com/MattPat, MATPAT, and get yourself some free scary stories that are a whole lot scarier and more believable believable than poor old Raticate over here. Remember, that's audible.com/MattPat, or just click the link in the description. And one final shout out to the channel Cool Goldfinch. Man, awesome job spotting that level difference. Huge clap and a half to you, sir. Your Poke theories have been missed. Next week, the return of something very exciting with a very special guest. I hope your body's ready.